I work in the ING Bank, which is one of the largest banks in Europe, headquarters in Netherlands, and my role there primarily is to lead the global testing practice, which, believe it or not, did not exist till last month. And when I started working on this new project, one of the first responsibilities that I undertook was to understand what teams were using across the different entities within the bank, which ranges from ING Australia, ING Germany, Spain, Netherlands, Belgium, all across, 16,000 engineers. And the tool that prominently came out was Playwright. And I myself have been using this tool for, I don't know, since its inception, 2020-ish. This talk is going to walk you through some of the incredible aspects of Playwright that we have found very useful within ING Bank. And I'm pretty sure most of you will be familiar with these solutions. And those who are not, I think you will find a good resonance with this to take back and start implementing in your project. Okay? Now, to start off, the very first thing is, and I've tried to bracket it under the concept of the power of Playwright browser contexts and how it meets Green IT. Green IT is simply but how to use less resources, how to make your tests faster, and how to get results very fast, right? So one project, right? I'm going to give an example of one project. That project had something like this: a payment flow that was supposed to start from the initiating channel and would go all the way towards leaving the bank. That had to undergo these 9 different steps. Why? Because it was a wholesale banking payment, millions of dollars. So it has to go through different checks from different parties, right? Now, when we were to automate this, and when we were automating this using another tool, which I really love, which all of you really love or loved at one point in time, not going to name the tool, what we had to do was we had to spin off multiple browsers, multiple Chrome browser instances. And Chrome is a very memory-intensive software, right? So 9 processes, 9 browser instances had to be set up. Imagine we had 500 different combinations. So 500 into 9. Those many number of browser instances for one regression test set. In comes the power of browser context of Playwright. Now, before I start to explain, I will not be able to show you the real application for obvious reasons, but this is a dummy application that I would like to show you. I directly land on the dashboard page. You get a drift of what this application essentially looks like. You have a web page. You go on the new button on the top. You will be able to create a transaction. Simple application, just to give an example of how Playwright's browser context is going to immensely solve the problem that I explained. Now, have a look at this code. Line number 5 is one test. Line number 5 is just one test, where we instantiate the browser context for the first user. Okay? Then the first user logs in, initiates a transaction, selects a payee, and completes the transaction. Yeah, this is the first user. In the same test, we are instantiating the browser context for the second user, and the second user logs in and validates that the first user who sent the payment is actually, has been received or not. The second user goes on to initiate another transaction, which then the third user, through its own browser context, is able to validate. In one test, we spun up 3 browser contexts with 3 users doing 3 different activities concurrently. To see this in action, I'm going to play this little video. I would have really loved to do this live, but I didn't have the guts if something goes wrong. So here's the thing, right? I ran the test, and in a split second, you will see that on the top, on the timeline view, this is the trace view, by the way. I'm going to talk about this a little later. On the timeline view, there are 3 browser contexts that are running in sequence, well, not really in sequence, but whenever it has to be invoked, performing 3 different activities with 3 different users, all within the realms of a single browser instance. And that is an enormous amount of time saving, energy saving, and a better way of creating a test. Now, I thought, how do I explain this in a way that becomes a bit interesting? So what I did was, I calculated the amount of energy that was saved. I live in Amsterdam, and if I have to take an electric car, drive in an electric car from Amsterdam to Paris, I will be able to do it if I utilize this technique and run that 500 test set regression set, right? That's the amount of energy that it saves, 60 kilowatt hour per year. Yeah? So this is how I tried to explain the amount of energy that you would be able to save, and hence the concept of green IT. Quickly moving on to the next topic, we have the power of Playwright's storage state. Again, I will try to relate it to green IT. Storage state is a fabulous concept of Playwright. What it does is, let's take the example of another project, right? We had 120 tests running, not all of them in parallel, some of them in parallel, some of them in sequence, depending upon the nature of the test set. Every test needed an authentication. So the user would come in, do the login, perform the activities, log out. Yeah? 120 test cases, all performing their respective authentication. Playwright's storage state allows us to log in once, create that authentication mechanism once, and let all your tests talk to that already stored state, and then just get on with the business. So you don't have to spend a lot of time logging in or trivial activities like this, but do the real business. So here's what we have done, right? If you look at this one, this is the location where we have stored the state, or we will be storing the state. And then step number 8 till 11 is a simple login process. And at step number 9, line number 15, we're going to tell the program that stored the state in that location. That's it. So if I do it, it would look something like this. I have to click, sorry. So very quickly, it just logs in, creates the, stores the state, and there in that location, the user.json is the file where the storage state is available. Okay? Now, all I have to do is tell Playwright config that, hey, next time all my tests run, please use the storage state. That's all I have to do. Now, how would my test look like? This is how. I just open the browser directly and get on with the business. There is no login step there. Yeah? Seeing it in action is like this. So if I just run this test, if you see the first line, it just opens the browser and directly opens the URL and directly lands on the browser, on the dashboard, I mean. So there is no login that is needed. And imagine the amount of time that it would save if you were to run this for 120 tests and then multiplied by so many different projects that are running within this big organization like a bank, right? If I were to convert this, this was not enough to go to Paris, but enough to go to Belgium. Still a substantial amount of energy that was saved. Now, I tried this with a project with 120 tests, and I'm pretty sure if I tried this with a bigger project, the savings would be a lot more. The next one is one of my favorites, and that's the power of Playwright's mocking capability. Because if you look at an application in simplicity, right? There's a front end, and then you go to the back end, and that's where end-to-end tests end mostly. Within ING, or at least I'm pretty sure in your organizations as well, we have end-to-end tests equivalent to chain tests, meaning an application which talks to its neighbor, which talks to its neighbor, and so on, and then you have 9 applications eventually giving you one user journey. In these kinds of situations where you're either in the middle, of course, also in at the beginning or somewhere at the end, you would really need the capability of mocking, stubbing, whatever you call it. And Playwright comes out of the box with this capability. If you look at this application, and this bank accounts, okay? This hyperlink bank accounts on the left. If you click on this one, what will happen is you will, what I did was I did a right-click, inspect, went to the network tab. Okay? If you click on this bank account, you will see that it is actually calling an endpoint. In this case, localhost 3001/GraphQL. It's calling an endpoint. And in return, it is getting a response. And the response, if you see the name of the bank in the response, is Waters, King, and O'Reilly Bank. So a real API call, and it is getting a response back, and that is basically reflected on the screen. Waters, King, and O'Reilly Bank. Now what I will do is, I will tell you that if this endpoint is not available, because this endpoint does not belong to you, it belongs to a system that this application is talking to. If it is not available, but you still need to proceed with your testing, you still need to make sure that your tests run completely, even though this screen may not be 100% consequential for you, you can tell Playwright to intercept this and mock this. How? So here's the thing. Line number 6, this is how we intercept the endpoint. We say page.route, and that's the same URL, if you could recognize. And in that interception, we are mocking the data, and we are passing the data of our choice. And I'm saying not Waters and O'Reilly Bank, but ING Bank. Now, if I do this, and then I move on with my normal steps, and if you see, opening the URL, clicking on bank accounts, which is supposed to talk to that service, instead, now it will be intercepted. I want ING Bank to be visible. If I have to see this in action, it would look something like this. Voila. The browser opens, it was already intercepted, and now I see ING Bank instead of the actual response that I'm supposed to see from the service. Yeah? What this essentially does is it gives me a high degree of stability in my tests. My tests are no longer subjected to failure because some other systems which are not in my control and which I do not need are not working. So it gives me a lot of autonomy and a lot of stability in my test execution. The next one is also one of my favorites. Playwright comes out of the box with the ability of API-level testing, in addition to browser-level testing, and among other capabilities as well, but API testing is super, super critical. How we used it is, in our browser tests, we need to do a lot of validation with proper test data. And not a lot of data is already available when we are executing the test. So we make sure that we run some prerequisites which either creates the data or fetches the data on the fly using the APIs. And at the end, also use the APIs to delete the data. And that's where the power of Playwright API testing come in handy. You see this endpoint? This is a mock API that I have created, running on localhost 8000. Some amounts have been defined. ID3, bear in mind, this is an important one. This is what we are going to use. ID3 has an amount of $350. Okay, so if I do a get call with ID3, I should get $350 in return. How would the test look? At the very beginning, I'm defining the API steps where I'm saying request.get, okay, amount /3. So this is calling ID3, storing that amount in a variable, and now using that same variable in my browser test. Just an example. You can do a whole lot more with this. You can do post calls, delete calls, whatever. To see this in action, again. So I'm expecting this transaction should have been completed with $350. And that's what you see. Yeah. What do we get? Again, we get high stability of tests because tests are no longer failing because of data issues. We are controlling the test data using our own API calls, our prerequisites. This is not just applicable for Playwright. This is a general concept that I want to share with you. We gained a lot of benefits by making sure the test data is in our control. I learned a very interesting quote someday. If a test does not have a state that you don't control, then it's really dangerous. So make sure that you control the state of your test, which means the data is super important. This is the final, penultimate one. We have a lot of regression tests, functional tests. But we also have some tests which are needed for detecting GUI level changes, front ends. Yeah? So what we did was in our basic regression test, we made sure that we just add one line, and it will be able to detect screen level changes also on the fly. Look at this one. So this is the same script that we were using. From line number 6 to line number 26, if you remember, was the mocking part, was where we were mocking that we don't want Waters, King, and O'Reilly Bank, we want ING Bank. Yeah? So how would this pan out? This would pan out like 27 to 29. Those are the 3 lines that it will execute. It will open the URL, it will click on bank account, and it will give us what? It will give us what? The same bank name that the real interface would give, which is Waters, King, and O'Reilly. Yeah, as simple as that. Now, if I run this, no, okay, one more line. I'm adding this one line, which is expect page to have screenshot. And this one line is a magical line. This line will actually detect all screen level changes going forward. Now, the first time I'm going to run this, it does not have a baseline. Yeah, so it's going to just take a baseline screenshot. So if I run this for the first time, it's just going to take a base screenshot and of Waters, King, and O'Reilly. All right? But it fails. Why does it fail? Because it says, hey, I don't have anything to compare this with. Right? So it's going to fail quite naturally. But going forward, every time I'm going to run this test, and in this case, I injected a mock data because I don't want Waters, King, O'Reilly. I want ING Bank. I want it to fail. And this time when I run this, it will actually fail for a solid reason. Now, here's the thing. The only thing that I had to do was add that one line, and I'm done. For all the different regression packs, regression tests that goes through all different screens, it's able to give me screen level changes as well with minimal fuss. If you see the report is I absolutely love this reporting. So in this index.html, the actual reporting comes up, and there are few options that you can see. So of course, it tells you you are expecting something, and you have received something else, and then it does a comparison. Are you familiar with this report? Anybody? Gil is, okay. So it says the actual, then this is the expected. The side by side is also cool. But for me, the next one, the slider, is absolutely fabulous. If you slide it, it gives you the expected. If you slide it to the right, it gives you what you got. And this is just absolutely killer reporting for me. All right. What's the benefit? The benefit was, in our regression test, we were able to detect screen level changes without any additional tool inclusion whatsoever. Final thing is what you have been seeing so far all along. Whenever I was running the tests, you saw you didn't see a browser opening up. You must have seen a trace viewer opening up. For engineers, debugging is the most difficult thing to do, practically. Writing the test, okay. Maintaining the test, difficult. Debugging, the hardest. And Playwright comes with those capabilities out of the box seamlessly. So if I, in this Playwright config, just simply include traces on, video on, that's it. For all your tests, you will get video execution like this in a very light manner. So not like heavy-duty MP4, but WebM format, which is super light, runs on your browser. You don't have to run it in a different video player. It's super light. And the trace.zip. Now, trace is such a powerful concept. Of course, there is this trace.playwright.dev where you can upload the trace and you can see everything like this. But you can also open the trace in-house on your laptop without exposing it to the outside world, where you can go step by step, seeing what went through for each step. Mind you, this is not a screenshot. It is a DOM snapshot. So it gives you everything that you would see on a DOM, including this timeline view that you're seeing right now. You can even see all the console logs that was captured by the actual browser. You can even see all the network logs, all the calls that went through, all the failed calls as well. And also, the final thing is, you can even capture a locator like this. You can even capture the locator from a trace viewer, not by opening a browser, but from the trace viewer. This amazing capability just completely changes the way an engineering experience would look like in modern testing. Yeah? Reducing cognitive load. That's what my presentation was all about. Thank you so much.
So, time for question assurance. I expect a sea of hands. Well, at least there's one.
Hello. Thank you very much for your speech. I really like it. I also see a huge trend of people switching to Playwright, so very insightful. I wanted to ask about two things. One was more or less at the beginning about that kind of like parallel testing with those three browsers. I wanted to understand if it's possible to switch back and forth, and also if it's truly like parallel or is just sequential, meaning that I can think of a situation where there is a call between two browsers, and if you could potentially arrange that call, like a video call or audio call, through the browser.
Yeah. Your question has two parts. Is it parallel? No, it's not parallel. It's in one browser, you spin up multiple browser contexts. Yeah. Your activity between or your activity in a context is different from your activity in another context. So user 1, user 2, user 3. So user 1 does something which user 2 is affected and user 2 validates. You can switch to user 1, validate something. You can switch to user 2, validate something. We test chatbots like that in ING. So switching is definitely possible. But this is not really parallel per se, because testing, if you look at it, is a sequence of activities. Can you spin up parallel browsers and each browser having multiple browser contexts? Yes. But browser contexts are not parallel. They are live, they remain live, you can switch for interactions, yes.
Okay, and if you allow me the second question, it's about the visual validation. I saw that you validate, you compared the full page to the reference. I wonder if there is a change in scale radius, or if there is a change on a little bit of positioning, if that will fail the whole test suite, or...
Yeah.
Yeah.
The very first release or launch of this feature did that, but the latest launch, you can actually specify to point to a certain element or certain space within that page beyond which a failure is null and void. If it fails there, then yeah, it's a problem. So you can do that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I have a different kind of question. So you work for a bank, and I would suppose that they expect some results from you. I noticed that you were presenting some cost savings. So I'm wondering what kind of measurements do you have to share to your managers and upper management? And how do they practically measure your success with this project and new tooling and etc.?
So we are running on 3 pillars. We measured them on cost, productivity, but above all, reliability, right? So our measurement, yes, is on cost, but that comes at a lower level as compared to reliability. As a bank, we need to be trustworthy. We need to be reliable. So the way we are trying to measure success is minimizing the prior 1 defects and the near misses, the ones that are caught at UAT, the user acceptance testing. Why should it be caught so late? It should be caught much earlier. So the more number of so we have these different guardrails, these different levels of testing. The more we catch here, the more successful we are. In this process, if we are able to save resources, save cost, make testing a bit more intelligent, yeah, sure, why not? But reliability is top-notch.
There's one question here.
I'm a keen user of ING, so I wonder, do you also have comparable tools to test for your mobile app? Because yes. I think nowadays, more and more people using mobile banking rather than the web version.
Yes. Last year at NTD, I did a workshop with a test automation framework that we have built within ING, which uses Playwright and uses Appium, and combine it to do browser-based and mobile device testing. Of course, there's a whole lot of other testing like database testing, message testing, JMS, queues, Kafkas, all that, all combined together into one framework. So to answer your question, Appium is the underlying technology that we are using, and the framework is ingenious. It's an open source framework, by the way. It's available on GitHub. You can check it out.
I have a question as well. In which bank do you keep your personal money?
I can't answer this question. I'll be fired because it's not ING.
Okay, we got our answer.
No, it's not ING.
But that means that testing has, let's say, potential.
Yeah, because I created my bank account much before I joined ING as an employee, so never changed it.
Thank you. Excuses, excuses. So, next. Any more questions?
Hello. So, I have a question regarding visual testing.
Yeah.
So, how do you manage your test data for visual testing? So, if your test user has 100 euro today, and if some functional tests change your test data today, and it will fail tomorrow, right? So do you have any test set for visual testing, or how do you manage it?
It's very similar to the question that you had asked, right? It is bound to happen. In fact, when I was preparing this recording, I had the same thing. I ran the test 2 times without the mocking. I just ran it 2 times. The data had changed, the amount, the balance had changed. So as I said, you can always specify that part of the page that you don't want to be calculated or don't want to be part of the entire visual comparison. In that way, you're eliminating all the dynamic parts, like an amount, like a date, like whatever, right? Even a user. So yeah, that is doable.
Can I have a question here? Okay.
Yeah.
So first of all, thank you for the lecture.
You can pick up your phone if you want.
Oh, well, don't worry, it's fine. So my question is, what are the key differences between Cypress and Playwright, and what are the main advantages that you see in Playwright so that we can pick it? Because in our current company, we're using Cypress, so it would be useful for me to know.
Yeah, we did an extensive documentation of the benefits of Playwright over Cypress, and where Cypress shines over Playwright. There are these comparisons that are done. I can answer this question, but I don't think I will be able to satisfy you with this answer in like 2 minutes. What we can do is we can hang out for a coffee outside, and I can give you a detailed walkthrough. It talks about, there are talks, the usage of browsers, the usage of switching between tabs. There's a big list of topics on which we did that comparison. So to justify that, let's spend some more time on that, yeah?
Yep. Maybe my last question, we'll see. I wonder if you are considering now the usage of AI together with Playwright, because I know that Playwright now, it has this other like framework on top of it or something that you can do natural language and then create those steps. So I was wondering if that's on your minds and if you are switching to that.
Yeah. When I was walking on the stage, I wanted to apologize to all of you that, hey, this presentation is not going to be about AI. And yeah, so it's going to be about proper, pure test automation in the good old ways, even though Playwright is brand new. But having said that, AI, or the usage of AI, is inevitable. So there is a small stream that we are working on to implement some MCP-based Playwright implementations, not just on vanilla Playwright, but also on Ingenious, the example that I gave on that framework. How can we make different kinds of tests? Because browser test is just one part of the journey, right? The user comes in and does some user interface level activity. But behind the scenes, it's a whole different dinosaur altogether. You have API tests, queues, you have these different processors, fat clients, you have databases, data warehouse. How can we handle this entire mammoth of a chain through AI is also something that we are working on. So yeah, it's on the radar. More questions?
I'm really looking forward to pointing my finger on someone and... Do we have a volunteer? Okay, lunch is near and we'll be kind this time.
However... No,
so I would like
kidding.
to sincerely thank Ashish for coming over. Thank you. So you get the usual package.
Thank you.
So Estonian chocolate and something to hang on the wall.
Absolutely.
And welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
And next time you can change your bank, yeah?
Sure.
I hope.
I will.
Will you be on that quality level?
I will be an ING customer for sure. Quality I can't guarantee.
So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much.